Hello and welcome back to the Brick Build Senate, where today I have something very, very special. This is my UCS Razor Crest. This model consists of over 5,000 pieces, closer to 6,000 pieces, and before I get into anything, I just want to give a massive shout out to Rich Boy J. His YouTube channel is going to be linked down below, but he's the one who developed this model and has the instructions for sale on his YouTube page. So if you guys want to build this massive set, feel free, but it's quite an undertaking, I might tell you that. So just to get started here, I'm going to be putting in a minifigure for scale. In fact, that is the Mandalorian, aka Din Djarin, but this set is massive. Now the first thing that I'm going to be talking about here is the value. Now the cost for me to build this, I used around 25 to 30% of the parts were my own. I owned them before building, and the rest were purchased off Bricklink. Now why I mention this is because I ended up racking up a total of around $1,500 Canadian or around $1,200 US in Bricklink orders to complete this model. There are a lot of expensive pieces and there are a lot of high quantity pieces, which makes it difficult to purchase off one individual store. Just as an example here, I wanted to highlight the use of these pieces right there. So these are 1x2 slopes in light bluish gray, and the set calls for 350 of them. So subsequently, you're ordering from a lot of shops. That was probably the most, but again, these 1x3 slopes, there were like over 150 of those, right? So just to give you an idea of exactly the scope that you're dealing with here, and yes, I don't think the size really does it justice for the piece count because there's so many small pieces, so many small details. It's really like an architecture grade set in terms of the density of the piece count, if that makes sense. One of my favorite parts, just before we get into it, are the tooth pieces in metallic gray that are used as sort of a manifold system and kind of a mix between a throttle body and a manifold in universe, but here it just really looks the part. It looks fantastic. And let's get into the model. Now these guns are pretty incredible. They're realistic in length relative to the rest of the ship. They're very much in line with the TV show, but please note that I have customized these. These are my own version of Rich Boy J's designs, and you'll see this throughout the build that I've kind of given it my own flair, my own twist, and that's sort of the fun with these sort of sets. And also, as I was getting to the end, I was less and less prepared to reorder parts I had missed and would just substitute it with what I had. These guns are fantastic in terms of detail, really amazing, and really kind of embrace the entire aesthetic of this model. Now we move on to the front nose cone section, and this is one of my favorite parts. It's one of the most prominent parts of the entire model, but I just really love it. I'm going to give you some close-in shots now as I talk about this model, but really what sets it apart is just kind of the indentation. So if you notice, this entire area around this gray part is indented around one brick, and it really helps with the aesthetics, and it's really true to the actual model itself that was the shooting model. Now excuse while I do some handheld recording, but I wanted to get a really good look at this kind of bottom nose section. Just the detail that goes into these kind of slope pieces at the very bottom and sort of kind of angles it in at every corner. It really helps with the model. And here's a good chance to take a look at the front landing gear. This landing gear piece is pretty great. I have modified it slightly with these struts made out of lightsaber pieces. This is again just more in line with what we see in the shooting model. I'll be only showing one side for the most part of this review, but just keep in mind that this set is symmetric right to left. Now this next part is going to be kind of the upper front of the craft / cockpit area. I'm going to start with the cockpit area. It's really great. It's a very challenging area to build, especially with the parts that LEGO has and not building any custom parts into it. If this was a UCS LEGO set, it's much more likely that you would have seen a new piece built for this front cockpit area. But as it stands, it's rounded. This entire strip is fully clear parts. This is clear, and I just like that it's not just left open like some other mocks that I've seen around. Moving back ever so slightly, you can now see kind of some angling, just a rounded tube area. There's some windows there and there. And just the angular nature of this craft is amazing. This is kind of a flat area, but you also have kind of a cone shape towards the rear, and just the curvature of the entire craft is quite amazing. Now I'm just getting you a better view of this front cockpit area, but you can see the windows a bit more clearly now. You can kind of see some of the designs of the cockpit and how it really is done very well, very incredibly actually. I want to highlight this kind of rear area. I really do like it. I think it's amazing. Just some greebling up here that is pretty cool. And then the kind of next really cool part of it is just the yellow. Now, in the movie, it's more of a tan, a light nougat tan, but yellow works too, to be honest. I'm not that picky. And then a part of this that I wanted to mention, going down here, is the fact just that the yellow continues for a long time. It continues all the way down the side here. But just look at this angular nature, right? Like just the kind of nature of it to kind of meet up just perfectly. It's really incredible, and you can see the Mandalorian through that, which I think is just amazing. Now, the next component of the ship that I want to talk about are the engines. Now, again, these are symmetrical left to right, so I'm only really going to be looking at one, but consider both. These are truly massive. Now, I'm going to bring in our friend Dinjarin back to give you an example of exactly how big this is. So, a minifigure can fit easily within the center right here, if I get you a better look at that. But yeah, so this is the bottom is around right here, and so it's 1, 2, maybe 2.5 minifigures tall, and just ginormous. This uses a substantial number of pieces, and I would say that each of these are probably well over 1,000 pieces each. Just because it's just so dense and so detailed. Now, I'm going to take you off the stand here just so you can appreciate better the level of detail that goes into these, and just the circular nature. LEGO is not circular, as I'm sure you know, and just the difficulty to get that circular nature in all the way around, even on the underside. Like, it's just incredible. It's just incredible. It's just incredible. And then the inside, again, my favorite part, I truly enjoy that. I really do. Just another little thing I wanted to show is this building technique, where you put them in. As far as I understand, it is not legal, but it works pretty well. I only had a few difficulties, but it was probably by far not the most difficult part of the build. So I give it a pass, to be honest. Now, coming towards the back of the engines, you can kind of see, again, just the insane level of detail here. Just the fact that, these are not circular pieces, right? But the fact that he can get it in a circular pattern is insane. Again, I apologize for keep taking you off the tripod here, but I just really wanted you to get an appreciation for exactly how this works, and I'm just in love with it, to be honest here. But that's about it for the engines. Just a really amazing job. And we'll move on to the top. Now this top section is pretty self-explanatory, to be honest. There's not a ton of kind of interesting building techniques, but it is just very cool. We start up here with a bunch of greebling, but what I find super fascinating is you'll notice some patterns. There's a pattern that goes like that. So that one, that kind of curve. These two lines going out, mirrored on both sides, of course. These are patterns seen in the shooting model for the Mandalorian. Kind of these details here, these grates, all of that greebling in there. That's just really amazing. You know, these kind of cells, either power cells or solar cells, something of that nature. But it's truly incredible, and it just adds to the presence of the entire model. And I can barely get it on camera here for you guys, but the last thing I wanted to show you guys was this back piece. Just amazing, and just a little tiny detail more, you know, on this side is different than that. It's just the small details that really make the difference here. With that, I'm going on to the sides. Now here we have a really good angle of the side of the craft, and while, you know, again, it's hard to determine the exact scale of this model, I just try to as much as I can with this minifigure, but check that out. That's a minifigure and that's the ship. And, you know, if that's not really how it looked in the movie, I'm not really sure what did. Moving forward, you can kind of see a ton of detail, like just this right there, this all right there. It's all just the yellow kind of details really get it for me. I really do like that. Now, again, these are symmetrical, left to right, but one exception is that on the other wall, there is no panel here. The design is very similar. I'll probably get a shot of it that I'll insert at some point, but there's a removable wall piece right here, and it's not mirrored on the other side, but it's a similar design anyways. There's doors on both sides though. All the yellow is mirrored left to right as well. In terms of detail on the sides, there's not a ton. The only thing that I find interesting are the kind of ports for the landing gear and the landing gear themselves. Besides that, and excuse the shadow, but the main thing and my favorite part of the entire model possibly, and the most challenging part, is this angle. So these walls are not flat. They're angled outward in a very intricate way, but it's just canted even further right there. So right there to there is my favorite part, even though these walls are not straight, and I'll illustrate that now. Moving back to the front for a moment, this is straight. This is curved out, and you can see the difference. It's quite shocking, it's very subtle, but it's really exactly what adds so much to this model overall. And now we get around back, and isn't this a crazy angle? I really, you know, just shooting this video reminds me of how amazing all of the angles of this ship really are, but you know, you've got this amazing, super large, canted up backside, and then this is not flat, it's again canted at a separate angle, and it's just amazing. It truly is. It's really just adds so much, and of course you have a little door hatch right there, but before we get to that, you know, notice just the detailing around the legs. Yes, there is a support here in clear. They're clear bricks. I chose to do that. It's not necessary, but it does lessen wear on the parts. So these tend to bow. And I found that if you kind of add just a support right there, it takes enough pressure off these that they still stabilize the craft entirely, but not to the extent where they're bowing and breaking, just because this is such a heavy set. Now, I'm going to move on to the interior now, and we're going to start that by looking at the back interior. Now, excuse the bad lighting, but this is just another kind of showcase of the detail and also the fragility of everything. So you need to be very careful when lowering the ramp, just to make sure that nothing gets caught. This kind of panel can pop out quite often, and it is a bit of a pain to get back in. I selected this angle to try and give you as best of a view into the area as possible from the back. You'll see a better view from the sides, but I just wanted to illustrate exactly what this looks like. Now, forgive it if it looks off kilter at all. My tripod is just broken, so you'll have to excuse that for the rest of the video. But you can clearly see kind of the interior. You can see how very clean the ramp is. There's no studs. It's all brick built. For the majority, obviously, there's exactly 6 studs, and that's intentional. That's there for minifigure placement. I'm not going to put any down, but as you can see, you could easily get a minifigure on there, kind of walking in or out with or without some cryo-frozen people, you know? So that's the back view of the interior, and we're going to now move to the side view. Now, I've tried to give you as good of a view as possible. It's obviously quite a small opening, although scale is kind of warped here. I'm just going to keep bringing him up, but he is 1 minifigure tall for the opening, but it still looks reasonably small. The first thing I'm going to show you is the gun rack. Now, this is kind of one of the classic things that I was really happy that was able to get added in. You can kind of see that I'm, trying my best with the lighting, of course, but you can kind of see the gun rack in there. You can see how the yellow design carries through into the interior, probably the only downside, but I think that's just a reality of the Lego bricks. Nothing much you can do about that without drastically increasing the size of the model. And that was one of the main reasons why I was interested in this model, as I close this up, is the fact that it is almost, if not exactly, minifigure scale. And I know this is kind of a controversial thing that not many people are interested in, but I really do appreciate it, mainly for the fact that when it's on display, it looks accurate. That's my main motivation behind that. I'm not really a stickler for the facts, but I want it to look scene accurate if possible. Here we have the cryogenic freezing chamber here. I'm not going to put one in, but you can put a minifigure right there and it will freeze him as per the scene in the TV show. The only downside I would say is that it's pretty fragile as it's built into the side and really is more of just a piece of conversation or display item. And now we move on to the doorway, and as you can probably see there, it's mirrored on the other side. Each of these doors is exactly the same on each side, but I just found this to be one of the most engaging parts, I guess. It's an ingenious design. This kind of dark gray piece kind of removes and clips onto the single stud that's on the primary door panel, and obviously the kind of 2 struts on either side fold in, but it closes up really well, and then when you set it up like this, it really does look like it has a little extension that's come out. It's an amazing piece of detail that really adds to the entire build when it's displayed. It's really amazing, and I do like it. Now, it's very difficult to shoot this model as it's very intricate, very detailed, and very cramped, for lack of a better word, because it is realistic. This is a freight hauler. This is not a luxurious craft. It's meant to be cramped, and it is. So it's difficult to show you guys around, but I'm trying my very best. In the middle where the tan and kind of dark red piece is, in the middle of your screen, you'll see that's his bunk bed, and that's very similar to the layout in the Lego set of the Razor Crest, and for good reason. That is movie accurate. And then on the very right, if I can point to it right there, is a ladder going up to the top deck, so to speak, and I'll show you that more in a moment with the cockpit area, but that is awesome. And then there is a small refresher, as it's known in the show, or toilet, as we like to call it. But that's kind of a very cool piece of detail, but I sadly can't really get in there enough to show you that, sadly. Now, this final piece of detail is pretty hard to see, but it essentially is an opening hatch in the floor that is kind of trying to mirror the episode where the Mandalorian is doing a heist, and he has to drop through the bottom of the Razor Crest to access the larger vessel. I believe that's the Bill Burr episode, but I just wanted to demonstrate that it does open up. I can get my finger in there. It does get my finger through, and it does close back up. I just thought that was a really cool thing, and that's why, you know, it's so structurally less stable than a Lego model, is because of stuff like that, right? Like, a hole in the floor will definitely, you'll lose some rigidity, some structural integrity, stuff like that. With that, onto the cockpit area. I'm going to start this clip with just a beautiful shot where you can see the child, aka Baby Yoda, in the cockpit, and the Mandalorian in the middle. It saddens me that LEGO has not come out with a Beskar steel version of the Mandalorian, aka Din Djarin, but I remain hopeful, and I will be grabbing the first custom figure that I see for sale, although I've hunted and cannot find any. If you know of some, drop them in the comments below. I'll be sure to grab it for sure. So anyways, the cockpit piece is removable. So I'm going to do that just now. It is probably the only removable piece other than the side panel. Those are the two kind of removable pieces, and they integrate both extremely well. The fact that it's unnoticeable from the exterior makes it really great. But again, you know, I keep coming back to this, but it's really important for those who are considering purchasing this set, or sorry, not purchasing, but like purchasing the instructions with the intent of building it, is that this set is quite fragile. And that's not a critique on Rich Boy J, who designed the model. There really is no other way around it. There's no way around the fragility of it. It's either you'd be sacrificing into your space and room. Anyways, so I digress. We move inside, and here we are. So I'm going to try and give you a bit of a top-down view as best as I can. But you can see here the controls, Baby Yoda. He has a spot for his weapon. And then this back paneling behind them is reminiscent of the doorway. And this is actually, I believe, authentic to the layout. But on this side, you've got some detail. You've got just a tiled area. And then down there, and let me try and get a light so that you guys can see it. Yeah, there you go. You can see the very top of that ladder that's to go in. That's exactly what you would think it's for. It's a connecting point, so you can go from the interior downstairs to the interior upstairs. Now, I find that fact just to really complete this set for me. Just the attention to detail is insane, and the use of ingenious building techniques and parts really elevates this set to another level beyond anything I've seen before. I have plenty of different UCS Star Wars sets. I have plenty of different custom creations that are meant to be, you know, really high-end replicas, if not exact copies, as best as you can in LEGO. And this is by far one of the most detailed and accurate models out there. Giving my closing thoughts, it's abundantly clear that this is an extreme set. This is, you know, not for anyone who isn't prepared to spend a long time and a lot of money recreating this. It's quite an undertaking, but the results are just magnificent. The skill development that I found through building this set is incredible. To be honest, the building experience gave me more knowledge and return on investment than even the set itself, to be honest. And I just give massive kudos to Rich Boy Jay for his building techniques and his skill in Lego building. It's really incredible. In terms of if you would actually want to buy this set or not, or, you know, spend the money to actually build this, it depends on who you are, to be honest. If you haven't built a very large Lego set before, may not be the first one that you should try. That being said, it was my first large scale Lego construction set. I believe 4,000 pieces was my max total of the largest set I'd constructed up until this point, and that was an actual Lego set. So this being 1.5 times that, plus it being a custom creation, not necessarily a Lego set, created quite a challenge, but in the end it really returned very well. In terms of value, it's quite a toss-up. On one hand, it is worth it, obviously. If you want something of this scale, typically money, in terms of what we're talking, is not really the main problem. I would say that, you know, $1,500 US would be plenty as a budget for this. But I would encourage people to try and glean as much as possible from their own Lego collections. And on the inside, something that I didn't realize, and this was clearly a rookie mistake, but Jay had colored red all the structural parts, and I ordered them in red, but it's clearly stated, and I can confirm that any red parts you're not going to see, obviously, but you can swap that out for any other color. So it really does open up your part availability in that regard, and if I had known that, I probably could have hit 50% parts from my own collection and lowered the price a little bit, but it's all good. I would say that you need a certain amount of space to display this, and I barely have enough space. I didn't really realize exactly how large it was going to be. I think looks are quite deceiving, and this actually takes up more space than even it would look like it would sitting on a table. The final thing that I want to mention here, and I'm going to bring in another little piece of the puzzle here, is the stand. Now, if you watch Rich Boy Jay's video, there is a stand to go with it. It's right there. This, obviously, disregard these light gray. They're supposed to be black. Stand is great. I built it to specs. And I would advise against the use of it, to be honest. This set is almost too delicate for my comfort to have it on that stand long term. The stand is stable, but can flex and like wiggle around quite a bit, and you can put it in different poses, but I'm just concerned it's going to fall over, and that would be quite disastrous. The last component that I'm going to talk about is the actual set. Now, like, if this was just as a model, this is a 10 out of 10. This is a beautiful set. It's magnificent. If you have any interest in the Razor Crest at all, you can appreciate this model. And if you're a fan of the Razor Crest, this is almost just a must-have. To be honest, just the fact that it's not a real Lego set will deter some people, and I'm sad to say that, because I would have been even more keen on it if it was a legitimate Lego set. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but just consider that because it's a custom creation, you do have to use your own creativity, so do not expect to have the same building speed as a Lego set. And that wraps up my concluding thoughts. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. Give a like and comment down below what you think. And stay tuned for more things like this. I've got more custom builds incoming. I've got more custom creations and hauls coming shortly. So stay around, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time.